Gilligan's Island ended after 98 episodes and 3 seasons, which is the way they used to do things. Today, you'd never get that many episodes. And the last one was Gilligan the Goddess. Gilligan and the crew do not get off the island. Now, I'm going to show you all of the stuff that happened after that. While the show was still on the air, we got a little bit more lore, a little bit more canon with the Gilligan's Island book. Look at this. I like, by the way, all the gunplay on the cover. It looks like Mr. Howell and Gilligan are going to have a duel. The book is illustrated. There's Gilligan in a gorilla suit, which happened a lot on the show. Gilligan got to work. He stripped off a few yards of hairy bark and softened it with the sap he got from the rubber tree. Next, he cut out the pattern, and then he sewed the pieces together. He held up the costume. "If it looked more like an ape, I would climb a tree," he said, pleased with his work. After the show was canceled, Sherwood Schwartz did a show called Dusty's Trail. Dusty's Trail was then canceled and re-edited into a feature film called The Wackiest Wagon Train in the West. This was Gilligan's Island in the Old West. You had Bob Denver still playing a Gilligan character. You had Forrest Tucker, who is as Alan Hale Jr. of a man as a man could be, playing a skipper-esque character, the leader of the wagon train. Then they have a couple rich people. They have like a professor type. They have a Marianne. They have a Ginger. They got them all. And they were stuck on this wild wagon train meeting people as they traveled across the West.
Now, wait a minute. There is no doubt that you saw something. But if Andy, with all his book learning, says it ain't a gorilla, that is one thing we can be sure that it ain't, huh?
I didn't see a big old hairy gorilla?
Absolutely not.
The next spin-off is Batman. In the show Batman, Alan Hale Jr., the skipper, and I'll refer to him as Alan Hale and Alan Hale Jr. After his father passed away, he started just going by Alan Hale. But that man appeared on Batman on the episode, I think it's called The Egg and I. It's one that Vincent Price plays the Eggman. And Alan Hale plays a guy working at a restaurant, and his name is Gilligan. Next up, The New Adventures of Gilligan. So this was an animated series that essentially took the unwritten episodes that they had thought of, and they fleshed them out, wrote them now as a cartoon.
Gilligan, when are you going to start dropping coconuts?
But I am dropping them.
Hey, someone's swiping them in midair!
Oh, Thurston, you are a genius.
Next up, Rescue from Gilligan's Island. So I mentioned they never got off the island. We all sat around wondering what happened. And so then they made this TV movie.
All your favorites are back in a brand new movie.
They're at sea. Maybe we can be rescued.
Rescue from Gilligan's Island. Bob Denver and members of the original Gilligan cast. Saturday on NBC.
This TV movie was an enormous hit. It got more viewers than any show has gotten any time this year, last year, the year before that. Because today, shows don't get anywhere near the amount of attention. I mean, these were numbers like you get for a Super Bowl when this came on. They split it into 2 parts because they were like, this is going to be such a hit. It actually just got the big numbers for the first part of it. And I think it's because people were like, well, they're off the island. That's what we were tuning in to see them get off the island. Well, guess what happens at the end of the show? They get back on the island. Tina Louise did not return, but they got another actress playing the part. The professor works at a college, and Gilligan comes by and messes stuff up, and then the professor's like, well, I set that up for you to mess up, Gilligan, because I knew you'd mess something up. Of course, the end of the movie, the Howells decide to put them all back on the same boat and have an anniversary cruise, because it's been 1 year since they got rescued. And what happens? Oh, they're back on the same island again. Because of the success of the first TV movie, they made a second one. It was successful, not as successful, but this one was called The Castaways on Gilligan's Island. Came out a couple years later.
We only had a boat.
I have a boat. Yeah, but we don't.
I have decided to design a living tribute on this very island.
A living tribute?
A tropical Shangri-La.
I should switch to this hat. Do I look like the skipper? I look like the guy in the Village People. The Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island. So this is just a weird mess of a film. I love this. This was the final TV movie they did. Mr. Howell had gotten ill. He was ill throughout the rest of his life, and you'll see as we go through some of these appearances, he didn't always appear. And for this movie, he didn't appear for most of it, and instead they had his son, Thurston Howell IV, who's never mentioned on the series. So they're trapped on this island. They got a son back on the mainland that they don't even talk about. Gilligan, the skipper, and the Harlem Globetrotters play against a team of robots. This was a Saturday morning cartoon, another one, but this time they made a rocket ship. They couldn't make a boat, they couldn't make a raft, but they made a rocket ship. They take off into outer space, and they end up on a planet that they can breathe on. So the first of many reunions was done with the entire cast, or a chat with Kathy Lee on, I think it was like the Today Show.
With us this morning, everyone who was marooned on Gilligan's Island, the entire cast. Here in New York, Bob Denver, Alan Hale, Tina Louise, Russell Johnson, Dawn Wells, and Natalie Schaefer. And Jim Backus is joining us from the ABC station in Los Angeles, KABC TV. Hello, Jim. How are you?
How are you? It's the first time I've ever seen the cast with their clothes on.
It's kind of the first time they were asked to kind of sit back and tell their stories, and there they are. The next reunion was on The Late Show with Ross Schaefer, which this is the only episode of The Late Show with Ross Schaefer I've ever seen.
You know, I've got some questions. These are trivia questions I'd love to ask some of you, if you don't mind. You probably know the answers to these.
Maybe.
All right, we'll see. We'll see. And how many college degrees did the professor have?
Oh, you're really getting hard.
Yeah, this is a tough question.
Russ.
Do you know that?
I haven't the slightest idea.
What's the answer?
6.
He had 6 college degrees. And couldn't
build a boat.
Couldn't build a boat.
The cast went on to appear in a lot of commercials as their characters. This is something you never see today.
McDonald's is bringing back all your old favorites for a reunion. A big double cheeseburger reunion.
It's great to be back.
We're reuniting the big taste of 2 all-beef patties. Ooh-wee. And golden melted cheese.
My, that's a lovely double cheeseburger you're eating, Mrs. Cleaver.
Thank you, Eddie.
Together with a new large order of crisp golden French fries.
I love French food.
So hurry, it's only for a limited time. It's McDonald's Big Double Cheeseburger Reunion.
Y'all come back now, here?
Here's the skipper for a car dealership. Again, they played themselves. The skipper essentially played himself for the rest of his life. He would wear that hat. He'd wear one of these, and he'd wear like the polo shirt kind of thing, or a Hawaiian shirt more often. And basically, he'd play the skipper all the time. The original hat that he had bronzed. It was the one he wore on every episode, the one he would hit Gilligan with. He bronzed it and then gave it to Sherwood Schwartz, the creator.
This is Skipper's original one and only hat from Gilligan's Island.
Back to the Beach. This movie's crazy. So this one is a throwback. You've got Annette Funicello and Frankie Avalon back together doing a movie. This movie is a wild, weird 50s, 80s movie. It's a little bit of both and a lot of wonderfulness. In this movie, you got Pee Wee Herman, by the way. Gilligan, Bob Denver, plays the bartender. He wears the Gilligan hat. He wears the Gilligan shirt. And he's essentially Gilligan. And he mentions being on a 3-hour tour. And he keeps wanting to tell people about it. And no one wants to listen. And then, at the end...
We've got to shove off, little buddy.
Oh, no, not you, not now.
I'm sorry, it's time to go.
This is an episode of the show The New Gidget. So you can see they brought back a bunch of the cast to appear on, I don't remember this. I saw this once. I don't remember if it was a dream sequence. I think that's what it was. So I think it's usually, you know, like somebody fell asleep watching TV and here's what they dreamed. On an episode of Growing Pains, Alan Hale Jr. played a cab driver, and when you saw his license in the cab, it said Jay Grumby, which was the skipper's real name. In the show, the skipper was Jonas Grumby. Gilligan's name is a little iffy, but between Bob Denver and the producer, Sherwood Schwartz, the creator, they debate whether he had a first name. Sherwood Schwartz said Willie was the name that they had always decided that if they needed a first name, it was Willie Gilligan. But Gilligan, Bob Denver always said, nope, look, I played the character. We never called him that, and so that is not his name. There's an episode of Alf where Alf dreams that he's on Gilligan's Island. I mean, come on. Here's a great picture. You've got Tina Louise in this picture as well, but you've got the cast of Gilligan's Island. I'll explain why some of them are dressed so weirdly. With the cast of Roseanne, what happened here was they did an episode of Roseanne where they did a skit where they played the Gilligan's Island cast members, which is very funny. I don't remember whether it was a dream sequence or not, but it was part of the episode where they're on an island, and of course Dan is the skipper and so forth and so on. And then over the closing credits, they did an extra little skit where they had the Gilligan cast members playing the Roseanne characters. Mego, which starred Bronson Pinchot as an alien from outer space. I don't know how this didn't become a huge hit, by the way. My goodness. I mean, that is so... Balki Bartokomous felt like he was from outer space. This feels like this is tailor-made to be on for at least 5 seasons, but it wasn't. But Mego had an episode where he was fooling around with a radio.
This is Mego. Who is that? This is Gil. Gil who? My name is Gilligan. We've been stranded on this island for 35 years with the professor and Mary Ann and the rest. All right, Gilligan, let me have that. Hello.
And he actually contacted the Castaways. So in his universe, the Castaways are stuck on that island, and a couple of them picked up the radio and they're, oh, hey, we're here on this coconut radio. And then of course they lost the transmission and never get rescued. They did an episode of Baywatch.
Gilligan and Mary Ann. I don't believe it.
Gilligan and Mary Ann.
Next up, they put on a big behind-the-scenes TV movie which had some of the original cast members telling the story, and then you'd see it acted out by these other actors. I thought this was so good, and I thought the guy that played the skipper was so great in this. I was so disappointed that this didn't lead to at least a season or 2 of these people playing those characters in a bunch of episodes, because it felt right. I mean, it felt, I don't know if it was not a big enough hit. It does really slam Tina Louise. Tina was not involved in this, and I think it's a little harsher on her than it needs to be. The real Gilligan's Island, they did 2 seasons of this. This was sort of like Lost. They were stuck on this island. There was a host. They had competitions that they had to do. There were 2 seasons. Each season had 2 sets of castaways, and you'd compete until you were left with 1 person, or in the case of the first season, the millionaires. The first season, they didn't think this through at all. And so every night when they would vote, the millionaires who were married got a vote each. All they had to do was, the first few weeks when nobody voted them out, which is what should have happened, they just would pull in a couple people to vote with them, and then by the end they had 2, and nobody else had 2 votes, and all they had to do was split the vote, and they could get it, get somebody knocked off the show. Second season a little better. The actresses that they had, I remember, I think Erica Laniak was in this, and Nicole Eggert. So pretty good stuff. There is a Gilligan's Island Nintendo game, which has its own story, and it has its own cutscenes, and they're on the island, and it's no fun at all. The pinball machine has some original audio and stuff and is a lot of fun. Castaways have almost all passed away. Tina Louise is the last one. Dawn Wells passed away of COVID a couple of years ago. I would say this is my favorite show of all time. I don't even think there's a close number 2. I love it. And I got a bunch of other books. I want to talk more about this. I got a bunch of other books connected to the show, so we'll do that tomorrow. Tomorrow, come back 2 o'clock. By the way, if you like this video, make sure to be a Fonzie and give it a thumbs up. And while you do, go, hey! It helps with the algorithm, gets more people to see this, and I truly appreciate it. Right now, a box is going to pop up here and here. You can choose either one, because I'm in both. I'm going to see you back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We're going to go through some great Gilligan's Island books. I'll also show you some other collectibles. So come back tomorrow, 2 o'clock.